Oh yeah, there. Woo. Another one, third one, still got more work. Every now and then I put a light behind it to see where'd my light go here. To see if I got any leaks, you know, they'll show. I don't see any. Hey, I just want to show everybody, you know, back in this corner, it's hard to grind down them welds with a grinder. Ugh. You know, with your grinder. And then I was using this piece. I was using one of these. But I found out, hey, you can get some of these bits and they grind away. And that way I can get back in there. This is a 1/4 inch shaft. But I think it takes a toll on your, everything became loose this way. So I opened it up to see. It looks like the gears are maybe wore a little bit. But I also got some for a Dremel tool. So that's what I was working on now, taking it easy. I probably was trying to eat off too much with this one right away. So I got my Dremel tool with it set up, and I've been working back there in this corner, grind away my bad welds. I don't know if it sounds like we're in a dentist or not. My original, where I think it is, cutting a little extra. Do a turn. Making a sharp turn. I decided before I start welding any panels in to actually check. I better check how level and square my car frame is. So, and I thought, how am I going to do that? I don't have some kind of a frame rack. You know, I got a cement floor that's cracked. Some parts are raised up more than others. So, how am I going to do it? Well, I decided, I thought, how about if I take a 2x4 and I screw some screws in it? Then that would lay on the cement floor. So that lay on the cement floor, and I could take my level then and level it out by screwing these up or down. And then that would level my board, and then I can measure from my board up to my frame. So now if the floor was level at that point, then I could just lay it on the cement floor and measure. So I got this little level. I got my big 4-foot level. The other thing I wanted to say though is you don't want to measure it with the car tires, you know, on the ground. So I'm going to have to jack it up, put it on jack stands, and then be able to measure. So I went and I've drawn out my frame. Let's see. So I've drawn my frame out. Side view, driver's side, passenger side, and then I did a top view. And I'm going to take my measurements. I'm going to put a white dot where I take the measurement at. Try to take it in the exact same spot on both sides. Put a white dot there, and then, so if I have to come back, and then write it down on this paper. So I'm ready to get started. Alright, so I've got these big jack stands. I've got it on the frame in the back here, but this side is loose and this side is not. So I might have to jack it up more, put another board in between there to make sure I'm off my wheels. Since that's rusted out and you don't know this can move, I'm picking this spot here. So I'm gonna put a dot right there. So from there on down I'll measure, because that piece is on both sides. So again, I put a spot up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure it like this. You know, I might just go to the floor. We'll measure this way. Alright, we are 21 3/16. Let's see what I can do from the floor. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to read it right here so my tape measure can sit flat on the floor. (23 3/16) and 3/16. And I am 23 1/4. That ain't too bad. Alright. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to move around different spots, work my way down. Well, first of all, I made a couple mistakes. I didn't have the front frame up on jack stands, so I did that. Second mistake I made was back there on the floor, I was just using this little one showing its level. I should have used my big 4-foot to stretch all the way across. Luckily it was level. But, so I went back and measured them. Let's see what we get. Oops. Oh, I forgot my white pencil, and right there it is. I can see it. just kind of out of my reach. Alright. So now I'm going up by the K-frame, or the cross member, where the front subframe comes in and welds to this cross member. So alright, so I'm going to use this part of the frame right here. I'm at the very front. There's my front bumper. The radiator guard, I guess you call it. So let's do it. So I've got a crack right here. Frame's here. I maybe could get past it, but I thought I'm going to have to use my 2x4. I do believe in it. It wasn't level right here either, so this will help. Let's get started here. Yeah, see, I've got to come up like that much. That's almost 5/8 or something. So I'll just start screwing these screws down in to raise it up. Alright. I got just a little bit more. Well, I got my areas patched, painted, ready for the panel to go in. I was kind of counting my spot welds. Like there might be one. There, that might have been one. There's one, another one. So I'm going to drill holes. This looks like a spot weld. I probably drilled all the way through. I didn't fill that in, but just make sure I don't put a hole on my panel in that spot. So here's my panel. I had it in place, and then on the bottom side I marked where that frame rail's running, so I know on each side here I can put a hole for a spot weld. I know down here a couple spot welds and a spot weld hole there and a hole there, and I'll probably put a couple along here. I'm going to drill the holes now because once I set this back in place to cut it to fit, I don't want to have to pull it out to drill my spot welds since I got it out right now. And then I'm going to use one of the step bit to make them a little bigger. These are nice. I like these. So I got my little pilot holes drilled, and now I'm going to just drill them out with this step bit, make them a little bigger. Yeah, look how nice that is. And then for the sides here, well, these I won't because the fender well will have the holes to weld into that. But these up here, flip this. So those up here, I'm going to use this thing to poke the holes. And I might even make them bigger with this. Alright. So if you don't know about one of these, this puts a crimp in your tool or in your metal. If you're going to like overlap the metal, it puts a little indentation, and then on the other side it has a hole punch. So that's what I want to do over here. I'll punch a couple holes, and then I'll probably drill the holes a little bigger. Oh man, hope I can get down in there. Well, I've cut the metal away, the old metal. You know, some places they have you, when you have it overlap, and you cut both pieces at the same time. That way you have a perfect match. But I'm not too good at cutting, and I felt like I'll just cut along my line on this side of my line, and that's what I did. Well, underneath here I scraped away all the undercoating that was along here. I don't know if it matters or not. Then I took a sander and I body grind both sides down to bare metal. Now I'm using these things to kind of help fit it. I don't know, I got some, but I've never used them. So you put them in, you put it down through, and then you stick this in, and then you crank it on up, and that pulls the two pieces flush with each other really, and it helps hold it in place. So that's what I'm doing right now, trying to fit it. Put some of these in. Ouch! Ooh! If it was too far up, it takes two people to do this, but up close like this, I'm able to get it myself. And I just turn it on down. So I got some work here, that's for sure. The other thing is, oh sorry, I moved, is I've got some pretty good gaps here. Some are too tight maybe, and some are a pretty good gap that I'm going to have to take care of. So I don't know if some of you know, but this is like copper, and the weld won't stick to the copper, so I'll have to be putting this underneath as I weld these bigger gaps. So I've tried it, it seems to work. I just got this one, it's a flat piece, but it looks like I'll probably have to use this more than anything. The only real thing about it is you've got to have it up tight against that metal. You don't want to have a gap there. So this one is bending down. So I'm going to stick another one in here. Maybe I can help pull it up. The big thing I notice is make sure you screw them down far enough. That way when you get underneath there. There we go. Let's see if this helps. All right. Well, I've got my panel in place. I've got it hooked down. I took some measurements on both sides, and it really seems like they're exact the same. So I'm going to put this floorboard in over here just to make sure it sits right. It's hard to do in a stupid little 4.5 garage. Oh yes. Okay, I think I'm going to start welding my panel in then, because I feel pretty confident that that's in the right spot. I feel confident this is in the right spot. The other thing I've done doing it this way also is I created myself a lot of welding that I have to do. Welding and grinding it down to where it looks like one panel. That's the way I want to do it. And it's the same with me doing it this way. Over here, I've got a weld all along this side here to this old hump. So that's why one full panel, you know, you wouldn't have all that welding. You just have the spot welds on the sides. Well, it's June now, and I'm finally back on to the car. It's probably been 6 weeks since I worked on it. I had a right arm problem. I think from you holding that grinder out all that time. And I went on vacation for a week. So, I'm back to finish this part up. So I got my spot welds, the holes I drilled that go right along the frame here. I got to get them welded on. So I got these weights out of old windows. I placed them on there to, you got to have it pushed down right up against. You don't want no gap in between. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to weld there. I got to weld along here on both sides. And I got to take this up. Because I got to weld down through here too. And over here. Weld that part there. And then I'll finally be finished with that panel. You know, for the most part. What I should have did was remember to sand this paint off on the new piece that's underneath. Now I can't, but so what I do is I start welding on the outside, this piece out here where the metal's bare, get the weld going, and then I start pulling my weld into the center, and then I start working my way around the edge. Like that. Well, here's something I want to touch on. It's not a pretty job here, that's for sure. This is part of my panel that I welded in. And, you know, I had some pinholes here and I was trying to seal them up, but the more I kept going, the more I kept burning the way. So, you know, maybe this metal here was still a little thin from rust and stuff. But this is the new panel right here. Here's my line. So this part here is the new panel. So it could have been when I was trying to grind my weld away so you couldn't notice it, that I just got too thin grinding, and now I got this big hole that I'm trying to patch. So the best thing for me to do really is probably cut this out, and I'll put another patch in here and weld it in. So I'm going to do that. I believe we'll come back and see what it looks like. Alright, there's my hole, and with my patch sitting in it, but there's my hole. If we get down here, you can kind of see that it's curving up. So what I think I'm going to do is either tack weld it down here, and then when I get up here I'll hammer on it with my dolly and hammers and get it bent up where I need it. Let's weld her in. Alright, you see it? So it's down here, the corner's down here, this piece is up, this is up, so it's kind of an angle curve. I got that tacked in along here, so I think I'll take my hammers and shape it, see what happens. There. Now let me get down low. You can see I have it pretty shaped. I just had to push this up from underneath and tack weld it. So all you gotta do is weld that in. Okay, so there's my patch. You know, and then I started, as I grind, I get whole pinholes up here, and I gotta patch them. So I just think it's very hard. I don't know how people do it, where they blend it into where it looks like one piece of metal. This, I have learned something though. This is a part where you're not going to see it, maybe from underneath if you crawl underneath the car. But that just tells me that maybe when I do my quarter panels, I'll be doing a lap joint and spot welding them on. Well, I think I am through now with the rear seat panel. I don't think I have any more spot welds, any more welding to do. If I see some more pinholes, I'll patch them up. So I'm just going to spray this with some primer, all my weld areas, bare metal, get that sprayed. And now I am finally ready to move on to the rear to front seat panels, that whole floorboard there. Finally. I can't wait to get that done. Looking for the front floorboard panel video. See ya.